prayer for the spreading of the teaching throughout the length and breadth of the West, which you will find by scrolling down on the front page of the website. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as they have hoped and wished. Now the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form, emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering and the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So we shall recite Om Mani Padme Hum. As you recite, you can imagine that you are breathing in the suffering of others. Imagine in the form of dark soot that this, as you assume the challenges, the difficulties, the obstacles of others, you are extinguishing the flame of self-cherishing at your heart. And as you breathe out, you can think of providing all your merit to others and thereby alleviating them of their needs. Okay. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So, we've been discussing ethics for the new millennium, and I believe that here we reached the end of page 45. My note says that we ended by discussing we just arrived at the emptiness of emptiness. I'll go back a little bit.
The identity list of identity. Oh, yeah.
So the concept of dependent origination provides a robust framework within which to situate cause and effect, truth and falsity, identity and difference, harm and benefit. It is therefore quite wrong to infer from the idea any sort of nihilistic approach to reality, a simple nothingness without any sense of an object being this or that, is absolutely not my meaning. Indeed, if we take lack of intrinsic existence, lack of intrinsic identity, as the object of further inquiry and search for its true nature, what we find is the identitylessness of identitylessness, and so on, going into infinity, from which we must conclude that even the absence of intrinsic existence exists only conventionally. What does this mean?
Can you repeat that? Can you?
Just what it said.
There's not one thing, there's not one shred of inherent existence anywhere, even when you're looking at the lack of inherent existence.
Even lack of inherent existence?
Yeah.
But that lack of inherent existence is the quality of phenomena, right? That doesn't exist?
It exists, but it exists in dependence.
On
The conceiver.
A wisdom consciousness.
okay. Yes?
Well, it's our conception. And even if all conceptions lack inherent existence, then the concept of the lack of inherent existence is also lacking an inherent existence.
The concept of lack of inherent existence lacks inherent existence, but that mere lack of inherent existence, isn't that a quality of phenomena? Isn't that a findable? Can't we find that, the emptiness of a phenomenon? That's what we find. If we look among the parts, we find lack of inherent existence, don't we?
And then when we look at that lack of inherent existence, we can't find it.
But a meditator with focused upon the ultimate nature of a phenomenon will have a realization of its lack of inherent existence. Hasn't he found its lack of inherent existence?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that there's a direct perception of things as they are. But when you go to explain it, then it becomes a concept.
Yeah.
And the concept would be another phenomena, and phenomena lack inherent existence.
So there's a phenomenon there that is findable, that is the lack of inherent existence of whatever the phenomenon is, of whatever the initial object is.
Only conceptually.
Independence on a consciousness.
Everything.
Independence on a consciousness. But the consciousness discovers the emptiness of the phenomenon. So the consciousness has discovered the emptiness of the phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's something found.
From the point of view of the consciousness.
Well, the consciousness finds something, right? We're talking about the consciousness seeking some quality of existence of a phenomenon. And the consciousness discovers its lack of inherent existence. And the consciousness has a consciousness of the lack of inherent existence. Therefore, it has found something.
Yeah, emptiness exists. It just doesn't exist inherently.
So, but there's something findable that has been discovered when looking among the parts of the phenomenon.
Only conceptually.
No, and
If you have,
I think there's a difference between conceptually and to perceive and to conceive something is two different meanings, I think.
Perceive and conceive?
Yeah,
Yes.
like you conceive.
well,
you
one
conceive-
thing gets you something.
No.
One, you're just looking.
Well, there is the direct perception
Yeah.
of emptiness.
I have no experience with that, but if the direct perception of emptiness
Your assumption is wrong.
Conceptual
Finding
and
it.
is-
perceptual.
You assume.
you know, it's a perception,
Now you're stuck.
but
And
once
that's the big bug explosion.
once you get outside of that direct perception, it becomes a conception.
Thinking the word inference might be good here, that if you can't find something, you can't find the inherent existence of emptiness, you infer it,
Mm.
because you're not, and so, then when you have, I can't understand what a direct perception of emptiness is, because I haven't had it. Once you have that, then maybe it's no longer an inference, but I wouldn't want to speak to what that experience really is.
That's right. That's the means.
The inference leads to the direct perception. Focusing with single pointed concentration on that inferred emptiness leads to a point where the perceiver and the perceived are like water and water.
Espresso and water, no.
Pouring water into water. Yeah, but until then, it is by means of an inference that you. But here we're talking about. So we infer by means of logic that the microphone lacks inherent existence. Through that inference, we discover the lack of inherent existence of the microphone. So we've discovered something.
You've discovered emptiness.
We have discovered emptiness. So emptiness is that which we discover. And what's more, as Grace said, one can theoretically eventually arrive at a direct perception of that emptiness. So, what is that emptiness?
I'd love to know.
He's like,
One of the, what you thought was there wasn't. Is it? You thought inherent existence. Suddenly it's come to you that it's not there. So now what? I'm still here.
So we talk about a non-affirming
That's the
negative,
word.
a negation that doesn't affirm anything.
Right.
It's the mere negation of inherent existence. It's not that there's anything there in its place. We look for inherent existence. Inherent existence arises or appears to our consciousness. When I see this microphone, there's a quality of microphoneness that appears to my consciousness, my eye consciousness. And we then, through logic, establish that that cannot exist.
Which is an inference.
As it appears.
Initially. Through logic, it's an inference, which can then get to a point where it is a direct perception.
Right, and at that point, it's no longer a lack of inherent existence, it's a perception of emptiness.
That's an affirming. Affirming.
So this is something to think about, and play with it in your mind. we do talk about the emptiness of emptiness. So emptiness doesn't mean anything in and of itself. It is the ultimate quality of each and every phenomenon. And as it says here, even that emptiness is a dependent phenomenon, and therefore not independent, therefore lacking inherent existence, and on and on. And the emptiness of emptiness, when looked for, is unfindable.
Remember Rinpoche saying even arrived at through logic, the inferential realization is very strong. It's powerful. It's not just, it's not direct, it's inferential, but it really sort of takes over the way, I forget the exact words he used. I said, that's not direct? No, it's inferential. It sounded like a real, I don't know, a bomb went off. So you're changed by the inferential realization. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
When they say, yeah,
You have not reached the point of being a noble one.
no.
That, along the Bodhisattva steps or paths or grounds, you reach the first ground when you have when a Bodhisattva has a direct perception of
The water and
emptiness.
water business.
Is that the path of seeing? What is it? Seeing? Is that
Path of
Yes.
seeing.
So I have a question that's probably like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, I'm not sure. But when you reach
The mystic. No.
when you reach the first bhumi, you've also gotten rid of all the negative emotions. If I understand correctly, and that would alter your perception so much to have perception with no baggage.
I think you only give up the baggage on the 8th ground.
Oh, is that right?
For
Okay.
Mahayana practitioner.
Okay. Okay.
The Ten Bhumi Sutra tells you what happens at each level.
Yeah.
That's in the
Statement.
flower ornament, the Avaramsaka, it's part of
Mhm.
that, so you can look it up upstairs at the Tibet Center, 502 North.
Yeah, no, we have our baggage.
You have a nice
With us.
Yeti one, by the way, that's a good one.
All the way up to the 8th. So, even the absence of intrinsic existence exists only conventionally. Because the absence of inherent existence only exists in respect to an object which is lacking in inherent existence. It's the flip side of, or the ultimate nature of, any phenomenon. It doesn't mean anything in and of itself. So when you're
It
talking about
depends.
the emptiness of something, it's the emptiness of something. Even if it's the emptiness of emptiness, it's a quality of something. As you said, it depends on something. So, while acknowledging that there is often a discrepancy between perception and reality, it is important not to go to the extreme of supposing that behind the phenomenal is a real, a realm which is somehow more real. The problem with this is that we may then dismiss everyday experience as nothing but an illusion. That would be quite wrong. So what does this mean?
I used to think that there's some realm of pure emptiness, but I have to go, and it's not really the way to think about it.
What is meant by this?
Well, just reminds me of the prayer where we say it's like an illusion. So it's not an illusion because it functions.
It meaning
Our-
cyclic existence?
any phenomenon, anything that exists.
Okay.
So if we were to think it's a mere illusion, then we could say that there's no basis for functionality.
So
If it were
phenomena-
just an illusion, I could walk out into traffic and get hit by a car and not get hurt.
Okay. So that's what it's saying. Don't walk out into the
Not
highway.
specifically,
If it was
no,
an illusion, you
but
wouldn't
it's a,
suffer.
it's a warning to, I feel like it's a warning against the nihilistic attitude of nothing has inherent existence, therefore I can do whatever I want. You know, if everything's an illusion, I
Yeah,
can
don't-
treat
don't-
people the way I want to treat them, because that's
Mr. President.
But how is it like an illusion?
Appearing when
It's not.
It's not an illusion, but it's like an illusion.
One could say that it's like an illusion in that the phenomena we perceive, to which we attribute some kind of inherent existence, don't exist the way we perceive them to.
the way we attribute, you would say. It doesn't exist the way we attribute.
Like a mirage or a reflection in a mirror or something like, or
Yeah, but this
Moving.
doesn't, can we say that this microphone exists like a mirage, or can we say that it works and that it's solid?
conventionally it's solid and it exists conventionally.
Yeah, are you doubting that there's any kind of,
No?
It exists like a mirage in that it appears to inherently exist, but it doesn't. In the same way that a mirage appears like
Be water.
but a mirage isn't real.
But it
No.
appears
This is
like water.
real.
It
Mirage is
appears
real.
like water.
what is real, the microphone or the parts that make up the microphone?
Research can't
Microphone.
function
Here,
to
this
give you a glass
microphone,
of
it
water.
works. I'm talking. Someone,
So it's not an illusion,
does this seem illusory to you?
no?
You have to pay for it.
But it's like an illusion because you can't find the microphone when you look for the microphone. Which part?
When I look for the microphone, I find the microphone.
Aaron, where's the microphone?
There's another microphone down here too, by the way. There are two microphones.
And they're both illusory, or are they?
So it's we're playing around with this, but it is important to be sure that we're not negating the existence of microphones. We're negating the existence of some kind of microphone-ness among its parts. Yes.
Right.
And your cakes, maybe they have a little cakeness to them,
Oh, yeah.
especially the
Flourless
rich
chocolate
chocolate
cake,
one. Yeah, yeah.
Flour less, but it still has something that's there that
If there were an essence to cake, then all cakes would have it.
No, I think you have to put the ingredients in. And that way out comes that cakeness, that special. So, play with this as you explore. And when you mix the ingredients for the cake, there's a point from the eggs and the butter and the sugar and the wet flour and the chocolate, and suddenly a cake comes into being, right? There is a point where the ingredients transform into the cake.
that's a good one. I could spend hours on it.
Pizza's good too.
What?
Pizza's good too.
But first pizza, then
First
cake.
pizza, then cake.
Then cake, all right, we agreed on that, good. All the schools are good.
There is a point where they come together and suddenly,
And we throw out the idea of cake.
There's a point when we label it as a cake,
That's the word. Yeah.
right?
yeah, but we label it as a cake once it's come into its cakeness. And you know, if we want to talk about, it's at a point where it comes into its cakeness, and though it is, we can recognize that depends on its parts. There is a quality of cakeness that enables us all to agree that that's a cake. And according to the Madhyamikas Vatantrikas, it therefore must contain some quality of cakeness, by which we can all say, oh, that is a cake. And that ultimate quality, that inherent cakeness, is there. And if you deny that, you're denying that there's a cake at all. That's the a dangerous nihilistic attitude. And the response to that from the Prasangikas is, you didn't get it. There can't even be that. Everything depends on our imputing, giving a name to, and there's nothing there's no cakeness, there's nothing cakey about.
Right, because the dog who was in the back of the car that ate the cake didn't call it a cake.
He didn't call it
label
a cake.
But it's still
Even if the cake's
Still
not
enjoy it, I
yet, there's a
think.
point where even if you didn't put it in the oven yet, you say, oh, that's a cake that we have to now bake. Somehow, there's a point where the brain starts assigning the word cake or the meaning cake.
So I bring this up so that we can really think about it. So that it's not as if we say, oh, that's not a cake and this is a cake. Take the time to look at the difference between whether there is among the parts.
Right out of the oven.
Oh, someone is saying that they can hear me through the non-inherent microphone. And
Amazing.
you know what? If
Must
it
be
were
your-
inherently existent, you couldn't hear me, or else you would always hear me. But
We can assume this person is not deaf.
so what I'm saying is that the differentiation between the Svatantrikas and the Prasangikas is one to really familiarize yourselves with, because thinking that way enables you to sharpen your understanding of what this lack of inherent existence actually means. So you watch the cake form and you say, now it's a cake. And then you think about the difference between it having a cakeness and it not having a cakeness. And bring some, okay? We'll do the test here too.
and then when it's all gone.
Yes, it'll be the emptiness of cake. That'll be,
And
you have to finish it all.
the saying, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah?
It's backwards.
Meaning,
You can't eat your cake and have it too. So it should be.
Right.
Because you can have a cake and eat it.
Let them eat
Yeah,
it.
that's right. I
See
see
where
what
people
people
say you can't have your cake and eat it too. You're like, oh,
Whatever he has from that
sure.
thing.
I can't have
Could
a
eat
cake and eat it.
cake.
You can't eat your cake and have it too. Anyway, that's an aside.
But
Eat
maybe we wanna apply this reasoning to things that are causing us to suffer.
cake,
Yeah.
yeah, for example.
Maybe we're in a situation with people we interact with or at work, and we might find ourselves describing it in a very specific and fixed way, and then that causes us to be upset or fixed about it.
So how would you apply this to a situation or a work environment problem?
Well, if your boss is causing you problems, you could, instead of saying boss, you say, well, where is my boss? What is my boss? And then you realize you can't quite pinpoint what boss is. And then the thing the boss is doing, which point in time is that where that action exists. And then you can't really find that point in time where it's that action that's bothering me is existing. Then your reaction to it, similarly,
It
you
usually,
look, go ahead.
it usually exists when you see your paycheck. I'm just making a stupid joke, sorry. That's also inherently how it exists.
That's the emptiness rule. You can use the regular Shantideva rule. If I caused the situation, now I'm very calm, you can do that. That's one, that's not the only way, but your way.
So even the attributing some kind of fixedness to the dynamic, if we look at it, let's say, talking about the karma which has brought up the situation that causes me to suffer, and all the ingredients that bring about that situation show us that the situation doesn't exist inherently. The situation is the result of causes and conditions, and my attributing some kind of existence to the situation is something that comes from me. I'm labeling that situation as such and such. Is that what you mean by
Something like that.
Shantidevas?
Well, his thing of the situation you're in, very simply, nothing happens without a cause. In the past I caused, if you're a believer in the past lives, and so you can work that way, at least to take the edge off things. Then, with a calmer mind, you could start looking at who and everything exists, who doesn't, what does that mean? And it is a complicated topic, but I have to read the book because it refreshes me. I don't have that natural ability to bring up those reasons, but it helps if you read the book a lot. It's
But
very
for me,
helpful.
it's like I can do the reasoning and it
Yeah,
takes the edge off,
Yeah.
as Tony said.
yeah.
But then there's a sense that there's this emotional part of me that cannot accept that reasoning.
I think
Cannot accept that reasoning?
Yeah.
You mean it just gets overwhelmed, the reasoning gets overwhelmed,
No,
or
just-
it
its
doesn't accept?
view is not harmed.
It'll go away eventually.
So
But
it is what I think that one of the things Tony is talking about, we have to, whether it's with a book, whether it's without the book, we have to sit and think about this away from the situation that is harming us. We have to take the situation apart and view it with as much objectivity, with as little emotion as possible. And the more we do that, the more or the less the actual stimuli affect us when we're
You know, what also helps is if you think about the conditions and the causes, what is causing your boss to behave in such a way, it's probably because he or she is going through something as well. So by that sort of understanding and compassion, you can sort of pull the pieces apart and you can see the bigger picture. So it's not necessarily you per se, but something
must
that the
have
other
the same
person is
cause.
going through.
You have the same cause as Mark? No, also objectifying, so he even says, he puts the eye on the other people. He is doing this and hers, and well, I'm not doing, That's how far he goes to like extract himself from the situation.
Shantideva?
Shantideva. Call him up.
Remain like a piece of wood.
He's on the web.
Mm. And the hated boss
That book is valuable.
is not hated by everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes, indeed. Are you the boss at work?
Hey, wait, we're talking
Nope,
about you.
I am
Wait a
not the
minute.
boss.
No, because you wait on the customers
That would
too.
be the bossy boss, whose name I will not mention.
So the more Shantideva is really helpful in this sense, but I think that if we accept karma, the more we accept karma, the more we accept responsibility for the challenges we face. The more we accept those challenges, that responsibility, the less emotionally involved we get. Focusing, viewing this situation, the challenge that we're facing, as being the dissipation of our past actions, a concept that we may only intellectually accept, but just thinking about it begins to work on us.
Time well spent.
So, His Holiness goes on to talk about physics. One of the most promising developments in modern science is the emergence of quantum and probability theory. To some degree, at least, this appears to support the notion of the dependent origination of phenomena. Although I cannot claim to have a very clear understanding of this theory, the observation that at the subatomic level it becomes difficult to distinguish clearly between the observer and an object, and the object itself, seems to indicate a movement towards the conception of reality I have outlined. So what His Holiness is saying here is that we can't simply say that quantum mechanics equals the Madhyamika view, especially as science evolves, and every time it evolves, the prior theory is discarded and the new theory then takes its place. But these remain theories which are open to, from Newtonian theory to quantum physics. Suddenly the whole understanding of the relationship between cause and effects varied. So, but His Holiness is saying we don't really know whether these things have a direct, whether the notions of quantum mechanics are the equal of what he is talking about here. I would not wish to emphasize this too strongly, however. What science holds to be true today is liable to change. New discoveries mean that what is accepted today may be doubted tomorrow. Besides, on whatever premise we base our appreciation of the fact that things and events do not exist independently, the consequences are similar. In other words, this what we are talking about here, the whole idea of things and events not existing independently, the consequences of that remain, and that's what we have to concentrate on. That's what we have to bring into our work at bringing into our perception. Yes, that's my understanding of this.
Yeah, people want more elaboration on his book. His Holiness' book, Universe in a Single Atom, gets into science versus Buddhism a little more deeply. And because he just charts his understanding of quantum physics and so who taught him, who taught him relativity first, and he's very humble. He obviously understands it thoroughly, but he's making believe. And he doesn't. But he said the same thing. It's not exactly Nagarjuna's thought, but it's getting there.
And it definitely, I mean, what's very valuable about it is that it breaks down our notion of the solidity of things, and that's helpful. I mean, simply thinking of things as being a bunch of atoms and not having the perceived oneness, solidity, independent existence that we view them as having, helps, no matter what the system we use to diminish our. Now, I know that we can try to have this towards cameras, for example. There it becomes a little difficult to
Not for me.
pianos.
You're saying a keyboard is too?
The full piano, the Steinway.
That's what that's why they call it grand.
When it becomes a concert grand, I think there's an element of inherent existence there, no?
There's an element of price, and you're gonna pay for that reception of yours.
The sound is the proof that. So, you know, we joke, we say this,
Yes.
but the fact that that piano is made up of a bunch of keys, there are a bunch of strings, it makes sound. The sound that we hear is the product of this whole, and it is we who hear, it is we who attribute the name concert grand to that particular configuration of parts. Shows that it's all imputed. It all comes from our.
You have a concert grand in your house?
No.
Oh. He has it, but you have a grand in your house.
I
a
do,
grand
yeah,
piano,
yeah.
yeah.
One step down from concert.
The concert grand has just a little more inherent.
Piano, yes.
2 feet more.
Oh, it's 2 feet bigger. What kind is it, Steinway or?
Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want the factory, that's right.
Should come over.
So Mr. Steinway imbues it with a certain. So all the qualities that the Steinway people give to that, they're all parts. They're all
Yeah.
causes that bring about.
It's amazing.
Real salesman talks.
And all of it shows that there can't be one iota of Steinwayness to the Steinway.
But it functions in the Steinway.
Yeah, it does. Because
It's pretty real.
of the parts and the care.
That seems pretty real.
When you start playing.
That's why it's only like an illusion.
Yeah. Oh, so it's real.
No, it
Truly
functions.
exists.
Doesn't exist.
No.
Functions.
Merely exists.
Merely exists.
Again, as I said,
Sound. Not
the
shadow,
more we
sound.
discuss this, the more we think it
Yes.
and apply it to ourselves too. These parts that make us up, these parts that make others up, break down our grasping at them as having some kind of independent existence. And doing that will really affect our attachment. It'll affect the sort of afflictive emotions that arise in respect to something as we do this. And so it's a good practice.
But I feel like if it functions, then it's very easy to have aversion or attachment to it. Just seeing, okay, it doesn't, you can't find anything, but it still works as, an apple seed produces an apple tree. It doesn't produce a pear tree.
Yeah.
So,
But in order for
so if I
that
prefer
pear tree,
apples, it's meaningful that I plant an apple tree.
so the whole causal method by which the apple seed develops into the apple tree, by which you get apples that you have great love for, and it's very good with a piece of cheddar that comes from the cow's milk that is then aged. If you see it all as having this causal nature, though you're still going to eat the cheese and you're still going to eat the apple and you're still going to engage in these things, that whole process will greatly diminish your attachment.
And maybe if for some reason you can't get a hold of those, you won't be as upset.
Mickey found it even worse with gorgonzola and figs.
Yeah.
So, such an understanding of reality allows us to see that the sharp distinction we make between self and others arises largely as a result of conditioning. Yet it is possible to imagine becoming habituated to an extended conception of self wherein the individual situates his or her interests within the other's interests. For example, when an individual thinks in terms of his or her homeland and says, "We are Tibetan" or "We are French," they understand their identity in terms of something that goes beyond that of the individual self. If the self had intrinsic identity, it would be possible to speak in terms of self-interest in isolation from that of others. But because this is not so, because self and others can only really be understood in terms of relationship, we see that self-interest and others' interest are closely interrelated. Indeed, within this picture of dependently originated reality, we see that there is no self-interest completely unrelated to others' interests. Now that's really something to think about. That's really something to meditate on. That's really something to read and contemplate, to understand that we see that there is no self-interest completely unrelated to others' interests. You who work at the United Nations, how do you see that?
No comment.
No, this should be very relative, very pertinent to the work of the United Nations and an individual working for the United Nations.
Ideally, the concept works, but theoretically it should work. It doesn't work.
Practice.
I don't know.
Or you as a doctor helping. There is no self-interest completely unrelated to others' interests. Due to the fundamental interconnectedness which lies at the heart of reality, your interest is also my interest. From this it becomes clear that my interest and your interest are intimately connected. In a deep sense, they converge.
It's only at the heart of reality. It's amazing.
Accepting a more complex understanding of reality, where all things and events are seen to be closely interrelated, does not mean we cannot infer that the ethical principles we identified earlier cannot be understood as binding, even if, on this view, it becomes difficult to speak in terms of absolutes, at least outside a religious context. So we have to ethical principles we identified earlier. Good is good, good leads to good, virtue, helping others. On the contrary, the concept of dependent origination compels us to take the reality of cause and effect with utmost seriousness. By this I mean the fact that particular causes lead to particular effects, and that certain actions lead to suffering while others lead to happiness. It is in everybody's interest to do what leads to happiness and avoid that which leads to suffering. And because, as we have seen, our interests are inextricably linked, we are compelled to accept ethics as the indispensable interface between my desire to be happy and yours.
The indispensable interface.
Indispensable interface. Yeah.
So when you make other people happy, then you become happy. That's sort of simplified, right?
Yes.
There's the chapter.
So, does anyone have something to say about this? It is in everybody's interest to do what leads to happiness and avoid that which leads to suffering. Not only my own, but those around me.
But happiness and ethics don't exist in an absolute way.
What does that mean?
So there's some of these references about absolute.
What does
There
it
are no
mean?
absolutes
What does it
before
mean?
about morality, but even though you still have to obey
In the
law.
sense that happiness doesn't inherently exist, and ethical behavior doesn't inherently exist.
It doesn't inherently exist, but he's not saying it inherently exists.
But I mean, I think in the past, other religious systems have a very dogmatic and absolutist sense of what is right and wrong.
No, but okay, it is in everyone's interest to do, but I don't know in what context your particular causes lead to particular effects. Now, the fact that effects are caused and certain actions lead to suffering while others lead to happiness, and it is in everyone's interest to do what leads to happiness and avoid what leads to suffering. And because we have seen, as we have seen, our interests are inextricably linked, we are compelled to accept ethics, diminishing our tendency towards negative actions, developing our tendency towards virtuous actions, as indispensable interface between my desire to be happy and yours. I think this applies to the United Nations. I think this is the
Only the whole world would agree and follow that example. That would be amazing.
well, the contribution we can make towards the world following that example is the only contribution we can really make is by doing it ourselves, working towards doing it ourselves. So we shall read the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavad, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavad. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not staying by the realm of desire. He's not staying by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He's completely liberated from suffering. He's completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with tattoos. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the Bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good at the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent, its words are excellent, it is uncorrupted, it is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by Bhagavat is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha, the great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with genuine cause. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtues. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. So let's read the foundation of all excellence. The kind Reverend Lama is the foundation of all excellence. Seeing that dependence on him is the root of the path, may I rely on him with great respect and continuous effort. A human life with leisure has obtained this once. Understanding that it is very important and hard to find, may I produce unceasingly the mind that takes up its essence day and night. The fluctuation of life is like a bubble of water. Remember death, for we perish so quickly. After death, the effects of black and white karma pursue us as the shadow follows the body. Finding certainty in this, may I always be careful to do only virtuous deeds and abandon even the slightest non-virtuous actions. The door to all misery is seeking satisfaction and pleasure. Having realized that there is no security in the pernicious perfections of samsara, may I be strongly intent on the bliss of liberation. That pure thought that produces the great heedfulness of remembrance and discernment, may I accomplish by this means the essence of the individual vow, which is the root of the doctrine. Having seen that all beings, my kind mothers, have fallen like myself into the ocean of samsara, may I practice pure body-mind, which assumes the obligation to free all living beings. Body-mind alone, without cultivation of the three moral practices, does not lead to enlightenment. Having realized this, may I practice with intense effort the bodhisattva vow, by quieting attraction to objects that are false, and analyzing the meaning of reality. May I quickly produce within myself the path that unifies tranquility and insight. When by this practice I become a vessel of the general path, may I soon enter the great pathway of the fortunate ones, the Vajrayana supreme of yamas. The basis of achieving the two cities is the pure vow one takes on entering this path. Having found real understanding of it, may I keep this vow till it close my life. Having realized the significance of the two stages, which are the essence of the Vajrayana, by unswerving effort in the four senses of yoga, may I achieve what Holy Lama has told. May the spiritual teacher who showed me the good path, and all my spiritual friends who practice it, have long lives. May I at last completely surmount all inner and outer obstacles. May I in all births enjoy the glorious Dharma, inseparable from the perfect Lama. Having completed the stages of the path, may I quickly attain the high stage of Vajrayana. The prayer prayer for a quick return. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lobsang Tuwang Dojechan, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast ways of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of victorious teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the divine body just as welfare for our others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till sickly existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Vimanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhisattva from our seven seas. Having reached the far limit of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, which return to the glory of Losang Tenpe, magnificent truth of the three precious jewels, Mahakala Pramayama Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight rays. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will have class in New York City on Monday evening at 151
West 30th Street.
West 30th Street, third floor,
Towards the end of
7 o'clock on Monday.